Welcome, folks. I appreciate everyone jumping on here early, 3 minutes before the Zoom webinar. I like that style. While we are waiting for everyone else to join, feel free to drop where you're tuning in from today into the webinar chat below, what you're interested in talking about. If you're an Adobe InDesign or Issuu user already, just feel free to introduce yourself. Awesome to see an international crowd today. Everyone tuning in from all across the globe. Awesome. You know, I just saw one question in the chat about re-uploading one page at a time and how that connects to links. And so, Gina, I will cover a feature related to that in the webinar today. So stay tuned. This is a good time to note, though, that for all the questions that come up during the webinar, please type those into the Q&A down below, not the chat, because we might miss them in the chat, but we'll be responding to all of them in the Q&A so we can keep track of that. Amazing. We will give it another minute for everyone else to join, and then we will kick it off. All right. So I know people are still coming in, but we are going to officially kick it off. So welcome to InDesign and Issuu, bridging the gap between design and marketing with our special guest today, Angelo Montilla. We're very excited to dig into this content and really show you all the benefits of InDesign and then the integration we have with the platform. So to start with some intros, my name is Talius. I am a marketing campaign manager here at Issuu. I deal with webinars, as you may have guessed, and our in-person events and social media. I'm a Chicago native, a coffee lover, and I race criteriums, which is a form of bicycle racing. And I'll hand it over to Angelo to introduce himself.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining in today. My name is Angelo. I'm an educator and Adobe certified professional. I teach a lot of the content that I talk about in InDesign. I teach on YouTube. I am Canadian. I saw a lot of people from Michigan. I'm right across the border from Detroit in Windsor, Ontario. I am a hockey fan and a music lover. So there's just a little insight about me.
Awesome. Thanks again, Angelo, for being here. We're excited to dig into this content.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. But before we do, we'll do just a brief overview of what we're going to cover and some housekeeping. As I already mentioned, so you have the chat and Q&A buttons that should be on your Zoom menu below. Feel free to talk about what you're liking, what your thoughts are in the chat. But if you have specific questions that you want to make sure we answer, please pop those into the Q&A so we can make sure we get to them. We have Charles from Customer Success here who will be helping answer those within the Q&A, like via text or via typing via chat. And then at the end, we will also have a live Q&A at the end. So the goal is to answer everyone's questions because I know there might be quite a few. I also like to mention that this webinar is meant to be a resource for you. So we will be sending out the slides and the recording to everyone who registered, even if you weren't able to attend live. So you can have this and look back on it when you are getting started with InDesign and Issuu. So the majority of the presentation will be 30-35 minutes, talking a little bit more with Angelo, his expertise in design insights, applications, and then how it applies to you. And then we will kind of launch into the integration demo. So actually dive into how you can begin seamlessly transferring your InDesign documents into Issuu. All right, and then at the end, like I mentioned, we're going to have a final section of Q&A, which we'll be doing live. Perfect. So now into this first section, Angelo, can you tell us all a little bit about your background, where you started in your career with print, and then what led you to what you're doing now with your YouTube channel and your various courses?
Sure. So my background is actually in print media. I worked at a daily newspaper for about 11 and a half years. And this is where I found my true passion for design. Even though I got into journalism and I went to journalism school, there was a course involved in journalism that was page layout and design. And right from that point, I got a real interest in laying out pages and creating magazine covers and those sorts of things. So when I was working at the Windsor Star, I really got to get involved in creating section fronts like the food, arts and entertainment, sports. I spent a lot of time in sports, and I spent about 11 years there, and that's where I really found my passion for design.
That's fantastic. And how did you get introduced to InDesign? And then I know we also talked about your teaching background. How did that shift from teaching in person and then to what you're doing now with your course offerings?
Yeah, so in 2017, I left the print media world. But before that, I started using InDesign in about 2010. The media industry kind of shifted away from a software called Quark Express, which many people are probably familiar with. And so we almost had to kind of retrain ourselves using this new software. And opening InDesign for the first time could be very overwhelming because there's a lot more bells and whistles to it, aside from other than working in Quark Express. So 2010, that was my intro to InDesign. 2017, I left the print media world and started teaching at the community college here in my city. And that's where I got the itch to teach. And so a lot of the stuff that I was teaching in class, I brought over to YouTube in around 2018. And so I teach a lot of InDesign content on YouTube as well.
And I'm glad you mentioned that that some people can find the tool InDesign overwhelming at first, which is something that we have noticed as well and will discuss in the webinar today. And I also think that shift that you saw from in-person via publishing or teaching to online, I think really mirrors the shift that a lot of people go through when it comes to transitioning to traditional print media and then using services like InDesign and Issuu to move that into the digital space. And yeah, is there any last stuff you want to touch on with respect to what you currently offer on your website and on your YouTube channel? I know there are a ton of resources there that everyone here can take advantage of.
Yeah, so a lot of the content I create on YouTube is geared towards interactive design, so digital publishing,
Mm.
which goes hand in hand with a lot of what Issuu provides. I saw that there was kind of like a hole in the kinds of lessons you could find on YouTube in that genre, digital publishing. So there was a real interest in it, and people actually didn't even know you could do a lot of those things in InDesign. So, and with more companies moving away from print and focusing more on digital, it's actually a great tool to use. And then working hand in hand with the Issuu plugin now, they just go great. And so a lot of that stuff is on my YouTube and on my website too, montilladesign.com. You can find a lot of the written tutorials as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, and so I think it was such a natural fit, Issuu, and what the services you provide, because InDesign is such a great tool for digital publishing, which kind of brings us to the next section here, talking about InDesign specifically. So I think one question a lot of people have when they're getting started with designing anything online is, how does InDesign differ from Illustrator?
Yeah, so this one kind of pains me because I do see people doing work that you should be doing in InDesign in Illustrator. Anything like creating, if it's a one-off, one page, like a magazine cover, you could do it in Illustrator. But when you're working with multi-pages, a multi-page document, you can't think of artboards as pages. They're two different concepts. And I always say working with long bodies of text in Illustrator could be a nightmare as well in terms of formatting, typesetting, those sorts of things. So InDesign is your best friend when you want to create print documents, posters, business cards, postcards, menus, those sorts of things, and of course, publications like magazines and newspapers.
Amazing. Yeah, so thank you for clarifying that. I think that is good to kind of get out of the way first so people understand kind of which tool they should be using. So now when it comes to InDesign for digital publishing, why would you say it is the best tool for publishing? And I know you already touched on some of this when it comes to moving away from Illustrator into InDesign for that format.
Yeah, so InDesign has had a digital publishing workspace for the past 8, 9, maybe 10 years. Not much has changed since then, but these tools are still relevant and they're still powerful. Using things like page jumping to go to a different page, hyperlinks, a lot of the stuff that you would probably see if you were creating an interactive PDF. But the InDesign digital publishing workspace focuses more on HTML5. So you can go right from InDesign to web or read it in an EPUB, such as Apple Books or something like that. But of course, with the new integration, the update with Issuu, it's another platform for you to go right from InDesign to Issuu as well.
Perfect. So there are all these applications where InDesign is kind of the clear winner, even outside of just the format itself naturally fits the publication.
Yeah.
So what content can you create in InDesign?
Yeah, so I touched on a few. A digital magazine, digital publications, newsletters, brochures, corporate brochures, even something as simple, if it's a one-page type document or 2 pages, you could do like an infographic type thing. Yeah, those sorts of things. Anything that you could do in print, you could repurpose for digital. Yeah, go ahead, tell us.
I was just going to say that what's so great here is that if someone asked me what content can you create in Issuu, I probably would have given the exact same answer. So it's great to see that overlap is super strong. Anything you want to create and want to publish in Issuu, you can do so in InDesign.
That's right. Yeah. And just to touch on that a little bit more, the cool thing with Issuu is you don't have to add those interactive elements in InDesign. You can go, take your document, which was meant for print to begin with, send that to the printer, and now you have the same document that you can publish to Issuu's platform and add links there or video, those sorts of things, which I'm sure Talios will touch on in his demo.
Exactly. And that's almost the second half of the integration. So one, it's moving it over to Issuu in that initial format. And then there's just so much you can do from there. So it really expands the possibilities of what you can do with the content you're already creating. And who should be using InDesign? I think some people, have the impression that you have to be a designer by trade to use this platform. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so who should be using it? Obviously, if you work in a publication workspace, that's number one. But communication specialists to send out their branding messages and marketing messages as well. So marketing companies, comms departments, publications, magazines, those sorts of things. The thing with InDesign is, like I touched on earlier, it can be overwhelming if you're opening it for the first time. But if you learn the basics, you can create something as simple as a poster with the bare bone essentials of, when the event is, where it's at, who's going to be performing or speaking, those sorts of things, and taking that and sharing it on Issuu or publishing it online, those sorts of things.
Exactly.
So really, I mean, anybody can use it. It's just a matter of kind of getting comfortable with the tools and learning how to use it.
Which brings us to kind of this question here: how hard is it to learn InDesign if you are a beginner to design or the Adobe suite in general, or just to the InDesign platform, coming from something like Illustrator?
Okay, so if you're coming from Illustrator and then going to InDesign, the path will be much easier than if you were just starting from scratch, because obviously you need some kind of design knowledge to use these programs.
Yeah.
I will say, if you're going from Illustrator, or even you could say Photoshop, to InDesign, a lot of the tools that you see in those interfaces and those apps, they carry over to InDesign as well. So you'll see like the pen tool and those sorts of things. Not that you would use that so much in InDesign, but navigating your way around InDesign isn't as complicated if you've used those other apps before.
Got it. And what would you say to someone who is not familiar with necessarily the other tools in the Adobe suite, but wants to get started with InDesign? Any recommendations or tips for them?
Yeah, I would just open up the app and start, playing around with it and start placing text, start importing or placing images, moving things around. Obviously, there's so many resources online that can help you. So going to YouTube tutorials or LinkedIn Learning, those are good avenues to get you started. And once you get the basics of it, the initial concept, then you can build from there. But the first step is just familiarizing yourself with the tools in InDesign.
Yeah. So getting a hold of those basics, and then that can kind of take you a long way as you progress to more advanced capabilities.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. And to kind of expand on what we just talked about, here are some examples similar to what some of these industries and roles that you were just talking about, Angelo, of content that has been created on InDesign. And then this is content that currently exists in Issuu. So as you can see, it ranges from real estate to education to editorials to, on the bottom right here, this is another real estate piece, but much more of a magazine feel. And then some architecture related content on the bottom left, which I actually have pulled up for you. Everyone can see the screen. This is the same content in Issuu. And as you can see, it's really interactive, and there are embedded videos that autoplay really seamlessly in this content, which I wanted to share, and which I will actually show you how to do in the tutorial section of this webinar. But yeah, just some to kind of further elaborate on the variety of content and the variety of use cases and different people who can be using both InDesign and Issuu to make their content even better, to expand their business, to reach more people. So it's really versatile. So moving on to kind of the main tutorial section of this webinar. Feel free as I move through this to drop any questions you have in the Q&A, and we'll get those answered either via the Q&A or later during the live question and answer session. All right. So I will move on over here, excuse me, to InDesign. And this is a document that I actually have already pulled up. This is a document that Angelo actually created in one of his videos on his channel. But this is just to show you we're at the final step of the creation process. For the sake of time in this webinar, we're not going to go into the full step-by-step creation because we want to show you how you can transform and elevate that finished document rather than going into the functionality fully of InDesign here. But what I did want to mention is that for those who are still getting started with the content creation process itself in InDesign, this is the page that you will open up initially. And if you select new file, this window pops up. I just want to confirm that everyone can see this pop-up window. Can you give me a thumbs up, Angelo, if you can see this pop? Great.
All good.
You know, Zoom
Sorry
is
about
tricky. But yeah, if you go to print or web on the top here, there are a variety of templates which you can use to kind of get a head start creating your InDesign content. So there's a variety of different ones here, all free to access. And then you can actually search for additional templates on Adobe stock, and you can search for catalog or magazine or brochure or lookbook or the whatever type of content you want to be creating. And that will just get you one step closer to a piece of finished content like this so that you can move that into Issuu. So once you have your content ready to go, you want to actually transfer it into the Issuu format. You're going to want to make sure you save as, so you do not save over the template that you've used. And I will name this Digital Flipbook InDesign example. And just for reference, this, what you save it as, will actually end up being the initial title that's brought into Issuu. You can, of course, always change that, but just so you know, if you want to title that appropriately here. So go ahead and replace the one that exists. And then you are ready to move this into Issuu. You're going to want to just one small note here, uncheck this facing pages button, and this just assures that it always transfers into Issuu in the correct format. So now the next step is actually downloading the Issuu InDesign publication. So the way you do this is you move up into Window, which you'll see on the top here, and then the first time the extension will not be downloaded to your computer, so you're going to want to find that extension on Adobe Exchange. And so this will open up Adobe Exchange. We have a strange filter that's been added here. We'll remove that. And so what you're going to do is search for Issuu in this left-hand search bar. It's being a little slow right now, but here we go. Great. So just search for Issuu on the left, and then Issuu should come up as the first result. And you can select that here and just learn a little bit more about the publication, about the integration, etc. As you can see, we have this acquired icon on the top right because I have already installed this to my device. But if you have not already installed it, you're just going to install that here. It's a simple process. And then make sure you restart your InDesign app, and then the integration will be installed in InDesign. So you just navigate back to the publication you want to upload, hop into Window again here. So this is the same way we found the extension originally, but we're now going to go down to Extensions and select Publish a Document Issuu. So this is the integration itself. And then that will open up this pop-up window. We'll let that load here. All right, so this is what it's going to look like when you open up the integration. I have already connected this to my Issuu account. But for the first time, you're just going to have to put in your issue credentials. So that just means just log into your issue account, and then you will get to this page. And so what you can do here, as you can see, this is the title that we save the document as. It says your draft has already been sent to issue. So if you do nothing more from this point and open up your issue account, your draft will be there. But if you want to publish fully from this point, the integration allows you to do that. You can go into settings, and these are the same settings you see when you publish on issue. So you can select availability for your document. I'm going to select unlisted right now, which means only people with a direct link can access the publication. So that's great if you're just sending this to a select few people, or if it's an internal review document and you just want to send it to your team, this is great. And we can also indicate show detected links. And so this is what that actually initial question was in the chat before we started the webinar today. Someone asked about if you want to re-upload your document. If you want to re-upload your document, I just got a message that says the top navigation was not visible when I selected. All right. Well, in case people can't see that portion of my screen, on the top of your browser window, there should be a window menu, and that's how I navigated to the extension there. In case you couldn't see that in my screen share, sometimes Zoom is tricky that way. But back to detected links, if you end up re-uploading your publication and select detected links, any links that you have added to your InDesign content will be carried over to any versions of the content that you then publish on issue. And I will actually show you how to do this within this integration. So I'll show you how to do that live. So then we're going to select publish now. Make sure you agree to the copyright rights, this that it's your content you're publishing, and then select confirm and publish. And you can actually take a look. This is what your content looks like in issue. So as you can see, it's already so much more engaging. It really looks like the magazine that you have created in InDesign, as opposed to kind of scrolling unnaturally through pages and emailing a PDF to someone and downloading it to your own computer, and it opens up. This is what it'll look like in issue. So now that we've done that, let's move over to issue and check out what it looks like there. Fantastic. So here we have pretty much the same view as we just saw in the integration window. We have the same title here. You can also add a description and edit any of those settings that you previously set. Let's say you wanted to change a feature here. You can do so. But one thing I want to touch on now is, let's say you realize that you wanted to add a link to the main title of this publication, or you wanted to make a change to the text somewhere, but you want to re-upload your publication, but want it to maintain the same settings, etc. What you'll do is you'll navigate back into InDesign and then make whatever change you would like. So let's say we want to add a link here to this main title text. You can, first of all, select the text itself, as I just did. I double-clicked on this text, and then move over here to this right-hand panel and select New Hyperlink. And this will open up another pop-up window, and you can add whatever link you'd like. Just for the sake of an easy example here, I'm going to use issue.com. And then you have a variety of other settings. You can change the link type and the appearance of the link itself. And we'll select OK. Perfect. So now that we've done that, we have this hyperlink added here, and we want that to reflect in issue. So we're going to remember to save again right here, and then go back into window. Apologies if people can't see my the top menu here of my window of my browser, but you're going to go into the window menu on the top and then select the extensions submenu and then select issue. And once you do that, the same window will open up. We're gonna exit out of that. Same window will open up. And then you can see that that link has now been added. And it says publish changes. So it recognizes that it's the same document. It doesn't think you're uploading a new document. And select publish changes, confirm the same rights. And now here we are with that link added. Fantastic. So now we will move over to issue. I'll refresh this page to make sure that link is applied. And as you can see, the same link has been applied in issue. So make sure we go ahead and confirm those changes. Fantastic. All right. So now I'm just taking a brief look at the Q&A. I do see we have some questions here that are still open. We'll get to these and we will cover these at the Q&A session towards the end here. So if they have not been answered already, do not fear, we will get to those. We'll have a dedicated section to review that. So now that we are here in issue, I want to show you all some additional features to take your content even further, as Angelo was talking about. The integration is one step, and then you can do so much more in the issue platform itself. So let's say you want to add a different type of link. Let's say you wanted to add a video, as we saw in that example that I showed previously. What you'll do here is navigate in issue to this page, the page for your specific publication. And then on the left, select add links and video. Let me just get zoom out of the way here. Perfect. And then what you can do is on the right-hand side here, you can select the page where you want to add that specific video. So let's say we want to do this here. Let's say I'm liking page 3. This seems like a good place to put the video. Then you select insert video, and you will just copy and paste the link of whatever video you would like. And so this would be from Vimeo or YouTube are the two sources that we currently support. So if you have a video, that would have to be uploaded to your account on Vimeo or YouTube. So I'm going to copy a video I have saved, paste that here, and we're going to do embed and autoplay. So this means it's going to be embedded in the publication and play as opposed to kind of popping up when you click on it in an overlay that overlays over your entire publication. So we're going to click save there. And then this placement's kind of strange. We want it to have it directly kind of synced up with this image here. And so what we're doing here is we're having it replace this image, but you can kind of think about this while you are creating your publication. So if you're like, all right, let's say on page 2, I want this style video in this area, you can kind of leave a space there while you're in InDesign and then just add that link in issue when you're ready to do so after you've used that integration. So here we go. We're going to publish the changes. We have our link added. And we're going to click on this button. And as you can now see, here's your kind of upgraded, enhanced document. You have that initial link here. And if you go here, we have that video that auto plays in that embed. So the publication just continuously gets more and more engaging and feels more and more lifelike and will be more and more effective for whatever, to whoever you're distributing this content to your audience. Fantastic. So now we've covered, adding that link in InDesign, selecting that auto detect link feature in the integration, and then having those links automatically appear in issue. And then also, if you want to add video links or any other kind of links, you can continue to do that in issue in our platform as well. So now I want to show you all a few more features. We still have a bit of time here. Navigate back to the publication. So here we are. This is the publication we were just working on. And you're going to want to go to the share menu, the share dropdown on the left here. And so we're going to take a look at the full screen sharing feature, which is our most immersive, our most customizable sharing experience that we offer at Issuu. So here's what that looks like. As you can see, the same publication appears on this top right preview, but then you have a variety of different capabilities to customize this even further. You can select a start page, you can select a specific page layout, if you want your pages to auto flip when someone navigates to your publication, they can do that as well. And then we have a variety of advanced features, which you can take advantage of if you are on an issue paid plan. And this is just the fullest level of customization. So for example, I really like this customized background feature because it auto selects colors that exist in your publication, and then you can change that to the entire background of that viewer, so it looks even more seamless. And then if you want to go that, the fullest step there, you can add a logo and a background image to fully customize it to your brand. And once you've done this, this is a great way to share this with people. So you can copy and paste this link, and instead of like having to download a PDF, when someone clicks on this link, this is what will open up. And it will open up in a new tab, a fully distraction-free experience. We have all these links that immediately pop up. And it's really bold, it's really intriguing, and it's really engaging. And again, it really looks like the content you've just created. It looks like you're flipping through a magazine here. So this is one feature that I love to show. All right. And, I'm going to take a brief look at some other features here while we still have some time. The embed on website feature in the same share submenu is very similar to the full screen reader. You have a lot of the same customization options, but then what this does, I won't go through this full customization now just for the sake of time, but when you select get embed code here, you can then paste that onto your website builder of choice. So this can be WordPress, Squarespace, etc. You can, paste this code into your website builder and have it automatically become embedded in your website, whatever page you choose, without having to do any hard coding. You don't need any specific technical expertise when it comes to do this, but it's a great way to take advantage of your website traffic and have your publications appear there. All right, so now that we've taken a look at some of those advanced sharing features, the full screen sharing and the embed on website, I think we have just enough time for me to preview our statistics feature, which is a great way to track the success of your publication. So if you go to stats here, you'll say that there are zeros across the board because I just published this. But we'll go into another publication that we have published here on this issue account. And then you go to the statistics menu on the left-hand side here. Share was where we access those other features, and just one down to statistics. And you can see a variety of high-level statistics here, impressions, reads, average read time, and clicks. And this essentially tells you how your content is performing. You can change the date range up here or the specific content type. And then what we really like about the statistics feature is you can drill down into all of these different statistics to a pretty high degree of detail. So you can look at a specific metric here on this chart, and this looks at it throughout the date range. You can also look at the links that exist in your content and see which has the greatest number of impressions and clicks to see if people are actually clicking on the links that you have embedded, showing that add links feature. These are all the links that will appear, and you can see how they are performing. And then actually drill down into each specific page and see which pages are getting the most impressions and reads. And then, let's say you publish a great article on page 3, you can kind of track the success of that article by looking at how many people are reading that content. And then, it goes even further into device, source, and where people are reading your content. So you can have some location data here as well. Fantastic. And so I will navigate back to this publication. And in terms of taking a look at some of the issue features, I'll reload that. We have just kind of scratched the surface here, but I wanted to show you some of the features that allow you to get started amplifying your content and then sharing that and tracking the success as easily and as smoothly as possible. And that concludes the main tutorial section of our webinar here. I notice we have quite a few questions here. We may not have time to answer them all. I'll do so right now, but I will mention this. For any further questions, please email webinars@issuu.com. That will go straight to me, and I will respond to those questions right now or forward your question along to one of our experts who will know the answer. So Charles, are there any specific questions that stood out to you that we can get a jump on before diving into some of these?
Yes, first, thank you for everybody sending all those good questions. I'm kind of over of all those questions are really good. We're going to answer them. If it's not today, we're going to send you an email to make sure all those questions have been answered. But I have, all questions are good, but I have one that, what is the advantage of using the extension versus importing the PDF into Issuu?
That is a great question. And so the main purpose of this integration is just to streamline the connection that already exists between InDesign and Issuu. So you don't have to go through that step of saving your content to your computer, figuring out where it is, and then uploading to Issuu, waiting for that upload process to happen. Just literally in 2 clicks, you can go straight from InDesign to Issuu. So we have a lot of people who already use InDesign and Issuu without the integration, but this is just one step further that allows you to, just save some time and make that transition even smoother.
And again, another one that is more InDesign or Adobe is like, are you familiar with the In5 plugin for InDesign, and does it work with the Issuu integration?
That's a good question. Angelo, do you have insight into that?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So think of In5 as just, it's another software that you would, you would purchase it and integrate it into your InDesign, much like you would with Issuu, but there's more tools involved in terms of digital publishing. So for example, right now with InDesign, you can only publish online to an Adobe hosted site. And you can't really take that link and do anything else with it. It's there and it's kind of stuck there, but it's a great way of getting your work from InDesign to the web. In5 is kind of like the Lamborghini to the next step, right? So they do a lot of HTML5 stuff where they make responsive layouts, plugins for WordPress. It's something I hope to see InDesign kind of integrate or Adobe integrate into InDesign as a whole. But yeah, In5 is a good tool to use for sure.
Great, thank you, and great question.
Another quick one, is this program similar to Adobe Publishing?
Angelo, that may also be a question for you.
Yeah, so yeah, I saw that question. So I think when Adobe first launched their digital publishing workspace, it used to be called DPS, Digital Publishing Suite. It's very similar in terms of what's available today. I wasn't using it then, but that no longer exists. There are some of the tools that you could still do with the digital publishing workspace now. But your 2 main publishing aspects in InDesign is going to the publish online, which is hosted by an Adobe server, or exporting as a EPUB fixed layout, where all of those interactive elements and animations are all maintained, and you can read it on a tablet or your mobile phone or any desktop screen, those sorts of things. So those are your 2 main ways of exporting or sharing your, aside from Issuu, those are the 2 main ways of delivering your work.
Fantastic. Awesome. I'm seeing some other good questions here. Oh, impressions versus reads in our statistics feature. That is related to time. So if someone is reading the publication for a longer period of time and flipping through the pages, that will count as a read, as opposed to just initially being served that front page of your publication. All right, Charles, any questions that stood out? There are also quite a few here that I can pick from.
Yeah, I think you can pick some good one.
All right. All right. Will audio play with the video embedded? I believe the answer to that question, Lori, is yes. The audio will also play for your video. Charles, can you confirm that for me? I believe that is a yes, though.
Sorry, I didn't hear what.
When you embed the video in your publication and you have that autoplay, the audio of the video also plays, right? I believe that's
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Another related question to the adding video. Molly, if you put the video in, that's a good question to note. If you add a video link to an issue document and then have to go through that process of re-uploading your content, that video will not be maintained. But as I demoed, any of those links that you have in InDesign will be carried over if you have the show detected links feature toggled on. All right, let's see. And this is an interesting question too. Does it matter what kind of issue credentials you have when you log in? For example, does Art Director have less permissions to do things during the export to issue? So the answer to that is no, there are not multiple tiers of issue accounts in that same way. We have different plans available that allow you to have multiple seats on your account. So if you are a larger team, and let's say you need 5 different people, or you have 5 different offices using Issue, you can expand to one of our larger teams accounts and have multiple different seats, but it is not, there are no tiered. So there are no different access levels to the Issue features, obviously, except for we have our tiered accounts. So if you upgrade to our starter or our premium plan, you get more features with that, but it's not based on role. Another great question here from Jennifer. Does the extension mean that you are not saving it as an interactive PDF? So great question. It just means you don't have to go through that step of downloading it locally to your computer and then re-uploading that to Issue. It just automatically makes that transfer. So you're still going from the Adobe InDesign content into that Issue format. Great. Perfect. Oh, it's great to see we have some other attendees answering some questions here, which is great. Perfect. Yeah. And so that we are just out of time. Again, as I mentioned, if you have any other questions, please email webinars@issuu.com. I really hope everyone enjoyed the content we discussed today, whether it be how to get started using InDesign or how to go about, creating more advanced content in Issue. Angelo, thank you again for coming on today. Your expertise was very valuable.
Yes, and just one last thing, if anyone's interested in learning InDesign, visit montilladesign.com. I do have courses, tutorials, plans, and training as well. And then, of course, you can visit my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Angelo Montilla, and you'll see a lot of InDesign content there.
And we will share a link to those sources in our follow-up email, and they're also in the slides here as well that you have.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, with that, we'll sign off. Thanks again, everyone, for attending. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye now.